Good evening, everybody. How are we all doing?
Good evening.
Welcome to episode 6, dubbed The Comms Box. Tonight, we have got some incredible guests in the back room waiting to join us. We are going to be talking about all things commentary in motorsport this evening. Obviously, all the guys that are racing out on track provide lots of action, but whilst we're all watching it or enjoying it, there is some very important people that are keeping an eye on the race and relaying the story as it goes. And I don't know about you, Steph, but I'm super curious about how on earth these guys and girls keep up with the story unfolding as it's happening. I mean,
100%. I couldn't do it. I'd mumble for 10 minutes and just scream because I'm just enjoying it too much. But
but it's true, isn't it? I mean, as you say, the on-track action's always entertaining most of the time, isn't it? But the fact that, these guys seem to know everybody's backstory, the details, the action as it's unfolding, it honestly bamboozles me. So tonight we've got two very, very well-known names within the commentary business. And also we have a new guy, Gavin Barr, who's going to be joining us, who's interested to know more on how to get involved with it. He does also do a lot of sim commentary as well. So we'll be bringing those guys on in a little bit. Obviously, we'll do our usual news, catch up with everyone. I can already see the comments are flying in. So good evening, everybody. I hope you are all well. Should we go and have a look at some of the comments already? Here we go. So good evening, Vicky. Hope you're well.
Evening.
Oh, I like that. Chris Pratt says hello as well. You hope you guys are nice and busy.
Not working tonight.
No, bless him. And then again, for any of obviously everyone who's watching on Facebook and YouTube, the great thing about this platform that we've got is the fact that we can skip to our YouTube comments as well. So good evening, guys. Hope you're well. That's from MJK Blasting.
Good evening.
And Jason Stone is on as well. Good evening, Jason. Hope you are well. So yes, guys, if you are watching and you are keen and you want to ask us any questions, get our questions into our guests. They'll be on in about 10-15 minutes, so hopefully we'll get the main chit chat underway. As I say, we're just going to ramble on with some news for a second. Good evening, Dave Weston. Hope you're well. I was talking to you just a minute ago. In actual fact, one of our guests, Mr. Chris Dawes, his usual home. Dave, we will be with you in a couple of weeks there, will we not? Should be an interesting little interesting day out, Steph. I'm looking forward to it.
It should be, yep.
Yes. Right. Shall we get into the news?
Unless
do you want to start with anything at all, Steph?
No, you carry on.
I will carry on. So, right then. So, first piece of news we've got, guys, and unfortunately, it's starting off with a bit of bad news, and that is, I don't know if anybody saw the announcement yesterday, but Race Retro, that's this weekend, isn't it? 23rd, 24th.
Yeah, this weekend. Yeah,
it's this weekend. Has unfortunately been cancelled. Obviously not a decision that anyone's ever going to take lightly. I have got the statement here, so I will read the statement out to you, and then I've actually got a couple of pictures as to why it's happened. It's absolutely gutted for the show organisers and everybody who's obviously going to be exhibiting there. So this is the statement, an important announcement for Race Retro 2024. So it is with great sadness that Clarion Events Limited and Stoneleigh Park announces the cancellation of this year's highly anticipated Race Retro event. Following extensive discussions of Warwick's District Council, Safety Advisory Group and Warwickshire Police, it has been determined that adverse weather conditions, particularly extensive flooding, and there's more rain to come as well. I don't know about any of you guys. There's been a lot of rain. It's just unsafe to hold the event. Unless, of course, you're going in a canoe. Because for anyone who's ever been to the venue, as you can see there, sorry for all our audio listeners, you won't be able to see these pictures, but there's
a lot of water.
The entire showground is underwater. So unless you're a powerboat enthusiast, unfortunately, the show's just not going to happen. We will keep, I'm sure, Race Retro will keep everybody posted as well regarding what's going to happen, whether or not they'll reschedule or something like that. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen. Obviously, this announcement only came yesterday, and the event being that this weekend is it's obviously short notice, but there's not a lot you can do about it, unfortunately. So absolutely gutted for those guys. But yeah, for anyone who's obviously going to Race Retro may not have already seen that. There you go. So, I've not actually been to Race Retro, but it's definitely one that's on our radar a couple of times, isn't it? So
yeah, definitely.
Yes. Just going talking of rain. Dave Redding, he'll try and hold the rain off. I've heard it never rains at Castle Coombe, so we will see how that goes. We will see how it goes. But yes, let's move on to some better news, at least. So what we've also got is this week I have seen, well, I think it was last week actually, Area Motorsport are going to be offering prizes to all their TCR drivers and their Civic Cup drivers in association with YGHP as well.
Nice.
£8,000 worth of prizes. That's pretty good, isn't it? So the highest point scoring Area Motorsport supported driver will receive £1,000 cash prize at the year end. That's for the Civic Cup and for the TTCR. Sorry, not TCR, TTCR.
Yeah.
With prize giveaways for standout performances as well. So I've actually got the statement here, but I think this is cracking prize. I've seen a lot of teams and series and championships actually offering prizes and things like that. So club racing is obviously booming quite nicely in a lot of places, but it's nice to have an incentive, isn't it? I know we all like to go out and have some fun racing, but when there's prizes on the line, makes you work that extra little bit harder, doesn't it? So, but yeah, so I'll read the statement out. So YGHP and Area Motorsport are pleased to announce a prize fund for its supported drivers for the 2024 season of over £8,000. So they'll be collectively giving away to their drivers 4 free new Dunlop Durezas every race weekend for outstanding performances. This isn't just targeted towards drivers who achieve podiums and race victories, but also for teams drivers who achieve personal goals throughout a season and a general having weekends or even a single race where they perform above their expectations. So I think that's wicked as well. Great incentive. So good luck to everybody who is an Area Motorsport driver this year.
Yeah, definitely. That's brilliant.
I suddenly want to be one as well.
Yeah. You want to be an Area Motorsport driver now, do you?
Yeah, so they've also just put here a huge thank you to YGHP for providing this fund for Area Motorsport drivers. And once again, supporting the team for the 5th year in a row. So obviously that relationship is just building from strength to strength. So that's good.
Nice.
We like this. We like prizes.
Yep.
So I've got another piece of news as well, because I did see this today, talking to the TTCR. Demon Tweaks will be sponsoring the TTCR Championship this year with an attire detail. So the British Racing and Sports Car Club is delighted to reach an agreement with renowned motorsport parts and equipment supplier Demon Tweaks Motorsport to become a prime sponsor to the club's 2024 Audi TT Cup Racing Championship. So again, that is one championship. It's going to be one to watch this year, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it started off last year and it looked good. Obviously, it's getting championship status for this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've upped the power and changed the tyre slightly because I think they were on NS2Rs last year, which kind of limited their grip. I think they've gone up to AR1s this year. So
nice.
If I'm correct. I think it's AR1s. So yeah, they should be a bit more gripped up and a bit quicker. So yeah, I'm gutted that the one we were going to buy to build that, we crashed it. So. Never mind, we've moved on from that now.
You say we, Steph. I don't really think we had much to do with it.
True.
Did you ever hear anything more about that?
Crashed into. Yeah, well, I got told that I was at fault, even though I wasn't at fault.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love how that's fair enough. We won't recover that, but that was definitely a fun trip to Plymouth, wasn't it?
It was.
So not. Right, what we will do quickly, because I've already mixed myself up a little bit, is we will just shout out our own ambassador program. Ta-da-da! So it is now closed for anyone who is still trying to get involved. Unfortunately, that is now closed. We will be sending out emails this week to all our applicants, hopefully with good news for you. We'll let you know. We will hopefully be announcing our pre-season track day as well with that. So in your email, you should get a date that you need to be free, and hopefully some good news. Obviously, three lucky winners this year will be supported this year by yours truly, and you can see all of our partners up and around the video now as we're going as well. So we're really looking forward to working with some great brands this year, some new ones, some old friends. Really good. Awesome response to the ambassador program again this year. Just goes from strength to strength, and I love it. I love doing it. So yeah, fingers crossed. Keep an eye on those emails. We'll hopefully start sending out the first batch tomorrow. Obviously with the show this week, it's been a bit hectic. But yeah, so good luck, everybody. Good luck for that one.
Awesome.
And talking of scholarship, I wanted to get ours in there first, but there has also been, and again, one of our guests this evening, Mr. Richard John Neal, has been a very busy boy this week or last week. We have Fiesta Junior scholarship winner. There we go. That is Danielle Sutton Racing. So congratulations.
Yeah, congrats. Awesome job.
So I've got a statement here I'll read out. I can't multitask that well, but we can bring the picture up. So Daniela Sutton Racing wins the Fiesta Junior Scholarship. Daniela has been selected as the winner of the 2024 BRSCC Fiesta Junior Scholarship out of an entry of more than 50 incredibly talented young drivers who all gave their best to impress our judges. As our 2024 Fiesta Junior Scholar, Daniela's prize is a fully funded season of racing in the championship. This season aboard the Pro Alloys Racing Run Mark 7 Fiesta Junior race car, with the total package worth in excess of £65,000. And I tell you something.
Really?
Again, yeah, we'll talk to Richard some more about it. It is no mean feat winning that. I've seen some of these junior drivers; they're bloody fast.
Yeah,
it is ridiculous how fast. These guys they're kids. My kids are the same age, if not older than these guys. And these guys are rapid. So massive congratulations there for that one. And then also soon after that, you've had the mini challenge scholarship as well. So and that has been won by Mr. Albert Webster. So look at that. So that's a good one. In a mini JCW. Lovely bit of kit, and they look awesome.
They did it awesome. I do like them.
So again, another statement here is mini challenge scholarship. A massive congratulations to Albert Webster and our worthy runner-up Harry Reynolds. So yeah, well done, guys. Obviously, that's a little bit higher end of the club racing, what I would class as club racing. But again, massive hats off to everybody for the scholarship wins.
Yeah, well done.
There we go. Obviously, the Club Racing UK one is most. It is
the most important, obviously.
Absolutely that. So there has been another scholarship as well, but like I say, we'll bring our guests on in a second, and we'll talk about that one. So, wow, how long are we into the show? So, I think it's probably time to bring our guests in. I reckon. What do you reckon, Steph?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right then.
Do you want me to do it? You do it.
No, I could do it. I'm getting the hang of this now.
Yeah.
I'll do one final check of. There we go. Good evening, Albert Webster. Hope you are well, mate.
Good evening.
Good evening. Oh, right. So, yeah, like I say, I'm getting kind of better at this, but let's bring in our guests. Let's stop waffling. So, what we'll do, without further ado, we'll bring in our guests this evening for the show, the Comms Box. We have got Richard John Neal. Good evening, Richard. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm very well, thank you, and thanks for inviting me along.
No, honestly, I cannot thank you enough for coming along. We've also got, I think he's either downing his drink or his camera's frozen, but we've got Mr. Chris Dawes.
Evening, mate. Evening, all.
Evening.
I was looking at him backstage, and that glass was up there for ages. I think his camera's frozen.
It looks like he's still in the green room, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I was just enjoying it, mate. I'm loving this green room. It's a pleasant change for me, isn't it?
I love it. And then we got Mr. Gavin Barr as well. Good evening, buddy. How are we doing?
Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for your time. Nice to be here.
Yeah, lovely. Right. Now, I did say this before the show started, but I think the funniest thing about this is I've got some professionals here that talk professionally for a living.
Yeah.
So this
We could just hand over.
Yeah, well, that's it. We'll go off and go grab a drink, and we'll let these guys carry on. But no, honestly, guys, thank you so much for coming and spending your evening with us. We wanted to do this show for a little while now, so we've obviously, me and Steph are racers. We're passionate about the motorsport and what we do, but obviously you guys bring it all to life, what actually happens on track. You bring it all to life as it's unfolding up in your little comms box, bless you, and obviously also getting right in there, talking to people with the microphones just as they're fresh out of the car. And it just absolutely blows my mind, the kind of knowledge and things that you guys have to do throughout a race weekend. So we wanted to get you guys on to talk a little bit about that, really. So yeah, that's tonight's agenda. So all right,
we're not
we'll
going
get
to
some.
talk, though, are we? This time we're not very good at talking when there's no racing going on.
Oh, you know what?
Get the compilation up quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Quick crashes. Just crashes. Where are they?
Oh no!
Everyone loves a crash.
No, you know that, Steph. Not everybody likes a crash.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Crashing doesn't happen in club racing. We know this.
No.
But literally, our intro video is lots of crashing. So
it keeps it entertaining anyway. But in fairness, as long as everyone walks away, that's the most important thing. To be fair.
This is the great thing about it is obviously we're all fans of motorsport. That's why we do what we do. Obviously, at the level that that we ourselves compete in, and the kind of levels that you guys all commentate on is obviously it goes from one end of the scale to the other. You've got your first time racers to, I mean, Chris, you do a lot of commentary on like GT stuff and things like that. And then Richard, you're a regular on ITV4 with the BTCC and things like that. So I mean, it doesn't matter what end of the scale you go, isn't it? The racing's always fraught.
And they're both, there's a lot of arguments for both sides of it. I'm sure I'd be interested to hear Richard's comments on this as well, is that, you kind of assume, everybody would assume that, say, whether it's the, what used to be Blancpain, what's it called now, GT World Challenge and British GT and things like that, the professional level GT racing is amazing to cover. Mm-hmm. But the club racing is so much more relaxed that we get to just kick back and enjoy it. I can see you nodding straight away, Richard, that there's a lovely, just raw element to that I adore, probably even more.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, a lot of people say about, would you go and work abroad and stuff like that? And I got offered a couple of gigs last year. And one particularly high-profile one, and I turned it down because I was already booked. I don't mess people around on bookings. That's the worst thing you can do in any form of life. But also it was actually the people concerned said I should have taken it, but I would have rather been doing what I was doing on that particular day, working at a BRSCC meeting at Snetterton, and no regrets at all about turning it down. Loved it. I love club racing. That is effectively what I do. That is me.
Yeah,
agreed.
But that's what fuels us. I mean, that's the reason this club first started, was the fact that we didn't feel that club racing was getting shouted about enough by governing bodies, and not enough people know what literally goes on every weekend at a circuit. There isn't, as we get into the race season. I know obviously we're on the off season right now, but there is usually something happening every single week. I think last year when we were covering, like doing the What's On, I think the shortest amount of time we had like 3 events on one weekend. Every other weekend you got 5, 6, 7 different events happening, and I just
every other weekend. Hang on, where's this? Am I working too much then?
But you know what I mean? It's just there's racing for everybody everywhere around the UK. So I mean that's why we started what it is we do now, shouting about it. So. I love the sport. I can't get enough.
I think
of
that it's easy to underestimate the club racing as well. I love when obviously as we know, Castle Coombe's my home circuit, and it's where it all started for me, both as a 5-year-old spectator and as a commentator 12 years ago. And I get to host like their racing school and things like that as well. And one of the biggest things I say is that when people go out and get to experience out on circuit for the first time, is that, you know, it's an amazing experience. They've got an instructor next to them. They're learning the racing lines. They're learning the speed. Then I have a joke with them and say, if somebody's out on circuit filming you, don't watch it. Whatever you do, don't watch it, because it feels so quick. And then you watch it and it's really not. But you then, exactly. And that's me included when I did it some years ago. But to then sort of come and watch racing, I love it, especially when we've got a race coming up not long after a racing school day. It's like, right, guys, come and watch it up here, because even if you've watched it before, it will change your perspective completely, especially when you get to go in, say, the Formula Ford single-seater, and then you watch those nutters go 3-4 wide up into Quarry Corner, just like nearly within each other's wheel tracks, and it just blows your mind that the club racers can be underestimated. Just how phenomenally talented they are. And they underestimate themselves as well, because that's why I also provide, like Richard does as well, media training for them, is that they're going, no, but I'm just doing my hobby. I'm just doing my hobby. It's like, no, you're seen as a gladiator. Respect what you're doing.
Exactly that. You do take for granted, especially like when you've been involved with it for so long, you do underestimate that once upon a time, as you say, Chris, you were a spectator at 5 years old. You were looking at these guys and girls just like in absolute awe. Like I when I tell people my story about getting involved with it, I always used to be at BTCC events on the other side of the fence going, oh, one day I'd love to do that. And I just never thought it possible. And then, with some hard work and whatnot, it can be achievable, regardless of what level you're on. So, I
definitely encourage it, to be fair. I've done a bit of karting and Formula V racing myself. So, as Richard and Chris are saying, the grassroots is really where it's at. And you're racing against drivers who've been on these tracks 20 years of their lives. They know every bump, every nook and cranny, and it is hard to speaking from experience, it's hard to go up against them. And as like I was saying it, I say it all the time, it doesn't matter if it's 50 mile an hour, 200 mile an hour, as long as you're side by side with someone going through the corners battling hard, that's where the buzz is actually at. That's what it's all about, really, at the end of the day.
Totally agree.
It's interesting to pick up on what Gavin was saying there. Gavin, love your analogy there about drivers knowing every nook and cranny. Takes me back. Did a track walk on a Sunday morning at Rockingham, bless it, when it was going, and I did it with Phil Glue, who I co-commentate with on F4 presently, and they literally do. I mean, Phil, you'd be walking around part of the track and it'd say it's very slightly off camber there, and you look at it and you think, no, it isn't, but he knows it is because he's done it in the car. And he'll and it is literally every nook and cranny. So it's a great shout, Gavin.
I love.
And you have to be, as you guys say, like 4 wide through some of these corners, like these F4 drivers. Like I've been to the BTCC myself, and shirts. That's where the action. I know there's touring cars, but to see single seaters so close to each other as well, like, you know, it's precision to the millimeter. It really is. It's fantastic.
The prime example of that was actually, Chris, I think it was the last time I actually saw you was at one of the Castle Combe, was it the bank holiday weekend last year? I was, and then the Formula Fords were out. Now I appreciate single seater racing, but I'm a tin top fan through and through. But honestly, absolutely fell in love watching the Formula Fords, as you say, coming up into Quarry Corner. And I think there was 3 guys all battling for every lap. There was somebody else in front, and it was some phenomenal racing to watch. I love
the Formula Fords always have been, always will be, just legendary to watch. I always say that you've got, the Formula Fords legends, which I know Richard covers obviously significantly, Caterhams and classic minis. Those for me, those 4 are the best. And I've always used the phrase is that to commentate, all we're doing is narrating the story that's being written by the drivers on the circuit. And when you've got those 4 championships in particular out on circuit, our job's being done for us. You know,
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it really is. You just literally call the action. You don't have to add anything. You don't have to make anything up. You don't have to add any drama to it. It is just literally retelling the story and making sure people understand what the hell's it means in front of us. And
Yeah.
it's just the best. I always think that I'm going to spontaneously combust with those four championships.
Oh, I can imagine. But that brings us on quite nicely. As I said, I was bigging you up at the start of the show, but how do you guys do it? How on earth do you manage to, get everybody's backstory? And like you say, I know, as you said, the on-track action is unfolding in front of you, but how do you guys react so quickly to like because there's 20, 30 cars on a grid at one time. So it's like, I take my hat off to you guys for keeping up with.
And I'm interested to hear Richard's take on this, because to me, Richard's one of the godfathers of commentating. He knows that he's someone that I look up to a lot. And sadly, we haven't actually been able to work together yet, which I'm still hopeful that one day we will. And I'd love to hear your take on this, Richard, first.
It's just what you do. I mean, people were talking in the prep for this about background, and my background was journalism. So I've been predominantly a writer to start with, and I was writing about motorsport when I was 13 years of age. So, when I remember being at school, and there was a sixth former who they ran a big story in the local RAC because his sixth former was guest writing on football and stuff. And I thought, why are they writing about, why are they writing about him? Because I've been doing it. I'm 13 and I'm doing it, well before him. And I never really made a song and dance of it. But to me, the journalistic side, when I got into it, and it's going to be a completely different story now for everybody coming through and getting started now. But for me, the start was writing and understanding, getting a story across. Perhaps I never intended to be a circuit commentator or a motor racing commentator. The writing was only because I knew people that were doing the racing, and I knew there was a story to be told. There was a market to sell the words to. There isn't now. I mean, you can't write for a local paper and get paid for it now, but back in the day, the transition I made was, okay, school kid, dad was taking the family to watch racing, and he was paying hard-earned money to get us through the gate to go and watch those. And then one day I wrote an article and sent a picture in, and the promoter said, okay, if you're covering it, you get a press ticket. So suddenly my dad wasn't paying for us to go in. I was getting paid for the article as well, so it was double bubble. I was getting extra pocket money, and that's how it started, and kind of moved on. I could spend probably a full hour and a half going through my whole story, but that's how it started. But not wanting to commentate necessarily, just understanding maybe the written side of it. And I've had some really good mentors on the written side over the years. The ones that I was with now, doing things like writing for Lindy's Sports American Football, sub sports editor on the Sun, that kind of level, and Evening Argus down in Brighton. He's actually packed up now, but people went on to really good, high quality establishments. So I was really lucky to enjoy a good few years watching them, and you soak it up, don't you, when you're around good people like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas mine was a little bit different to that in that I didn't do the journalist background, and I'll be honest and say that I thought I knew a reasonable amount about motorsport until my very first time was an opportunity with Castle Combe Circuit to shadow. Was the first year shadow the commentators, and the first person I shadowed with the opportunity to call a race or two to see whether I could join the team was Marcus Pye, who the font of incredible amounts of knowledge. And I came away from that particular day. He got to the end of the day and he said, right, how do you feel you went? How did that go? And I went, I can't do this. And he went, why not? Why not? You did great. What was the matter? I said, I thought I knew a reasonable amount, but you've just shown me I know nothing. I mean, that guy is just a walking encyclopedia. And bless him, that guy could have taken me out of the game instantly. And he turned to me and he said, no. What you need to understand is that happens to be my style. Everybody has to have their own style, their own way. And you will find it is that you are a fan of racing. and you bring that enthusiasm and that passion and a slightly different insight and things like that. And I went, oh, wow, okay. So I stuck with it. At the end of that year, they made me part of the team for the following season. And that was where it then just accelerated off. And I've always made the joke of saying that I'm not the anorak, I'm not the ex-journalist, I'm not the ex-racer. I am the fan in the box. I've broken in, I've locked the door behind me, and no one's going to get me out. And that is it. And I always remember the 5-year-old me, the teenage me, and the young adult me sat on the spectator banks thinking, what did I want to know? What did I want to understand? What was I looking at but didn't fully appreciate? And so I tried to take people there. And in terms of, your question about how do we know so much, I don't. My memory is terrible. There's no question. If you walked into my box, I've got paperwork everywhere. I've got laptops. I've got tablet. I've got everything. And I've just learned to read very quickly.
Right.
And you learn to feel, when do I need to grab something? When do I talk about it? When do I express? And just sort of really take people to where I am. I think the loveliest compliment I ever got, two lovely the biggest compliments I got when commentating was once at Alton Park, and one of the journalists at the media centre overlooking the start-finish straight, and I was down at the legendary Knickerbrook commentary box, which is one of my favourite views in the whole country. And he messaged me at the end of the day and he said, do you realise that you bring it to life enough that we have been writing our reports based on your commentary?
No way.
And I was like, wow, what a lovely compliment / huge amounts of pressure. And then the other one was at Brands Hatch, and I can't remember, it may have been at like the Speed Fest, which has just got like the biggest crowd ever. It's just incredible. And the amount of people that sent me a message that said, you make it feel like you're talking directly to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I wasn't deliberately doing that, but you kind of analyze it. And so I literally just have lots of paperwork to cover my backside where I don't necessarily know what I'm talking about. And then get excited and try to make people feel part of what's going on the circuit. That's it. And it was either, it might not have worked, but thankfully for now, it seems to have. I think it's entertainment first. That's my attitude.
Love it. I think that's brilliant. And what about yourself, then, Gav? Because obviously I know you do a little bit of you obviously do it on a bit of a different angle, and it's something I'd like to tie it with Richard as well, because obviously you do the online and you do sim commentary. So
so well, how I know what to say is, first and foremost, obviously seeing the guys on the track, pretty much on the battle side of things, just convey what I see. I, again, kind of like Chris in a way, I try and bring the passion, the enthusiasm, the excitement through my voice as much as I possibly can. Obviously, as well, trying to explain what's happening. Some people might be listening instead of watching it as well. But we've got obviously a couple of sheets and notes. Probably have to make more of us in the real side of things. But honestly, when there's a bit of a lull on track or something, I get some driver profiles up. What's their favorite track? What's their favorite kind of pop or whatever as well. So a bit of a background, and I am limited as well with the time I have as well. Sometimes you could do a promotional video for them or whatever. So there's all little things you can kind of throw in to bring it along. But again, just really to convey the passion and the enthusiasm with the racing. And sure, half the time my face is as red as a strawberry, and I'm on the side of my chair anyway, about to fall off. And that's the way it is, really.
But that's one of the great things, isn't it? Obviously, as you say, you guys are all passionate about the sport that is unfolding in front of us. Obviously, that does naturally convey over the mic. I mean, I know, as I'm sure we're all aware, there's lots of other commentators out there that bring different elements, different passions. Obviously, one of probably the most famous commentator ever, obviously Mr. Murray Walker and things like that. Just the sheer way that certain people go about things. And obviously this works the other way as well, because there is sometimes, there's no names being thrown here, but, sometimes you could watch, an event unfolding and you could have somebody in the commentary box that doesn't necessarily or isn't as enthusiastic about it as you would want to be about it. And obviously sometimes it could really turn the excitement off a little bit. But obviously this is why bunched you guys together, because I know there's some very good characters in this room right now. So,
and I do agree. I mean, it made me laugh. I don't know what you thought, Richard, but when we came out of lockdown, and there was like a few race meetings where they were like going, "Oh, we're not going to bother having commentators." And it was like,
Oh,
wow,
really?
wow, that's how bizarre.
I have my tent in the car. I'll sleep on the side of the track. I don't mind. You know what I mean?
They just weren't going to, and it was like going, right, even because it's not just the spectators, it is the the teams that might not be racing at that point, the families that their other halves or whatever might be racing. And they didn't do it. And it was like, wow, okay, that's really missing the whole trick there, because they had no idea what was going on around the rest. One of them was at the Silverstone full GP circuit, for goodness sake.
Blimey.
So they had no idea what was going on the rest of the circuit. But thankfully, they kind of went, yeah, we probably should have had some.
We should do this.
Yeah, get some information going. But, it helps. I love Gavin's comment about the fact that you've got to make sure that people understand what is actually happening, what it means to everything. And if there isn't a lot, then you just make it up. It's just, you add some subplots to the story and have a bit of a giggle with everybody. And I try to get I don't know about you, Richard, but I try to get subplots from people that you may never call on, other than those moments that you think, right, this is that funny moment where I need to just get something that normally I wouldn't professionally call on, but this is funny. Let's make it part of this, because we earn our money when there's nothing going on track.
Yeah, I mean, David Addison always says that, when people ask him, can they send him show reels? And I'll talk maybe a bit more about show reels later on, but David said, I don't want a show reel of what you can, of you saying, oh, there's a car overtaking another car. And he said, if you want to impress me, send me a blank screen and talk over a blank screen for 10 minutes. Yeah. So really? what Chris is saying is, what David says is impressive to do. So going back to about not having commentators at the track, the furthest I ever travelled to go commentating was to Coire-en-Ternois in France when I was Legends commentator at the tracks, and we pedalled all the way out there to Coire, and they don't have a commentary box, so I was absolutely stuffed.
Oh, that's not useful.
So there was no commentary.
Oh no! How did you get around that?
I just enjoyed watching the racing, took some pictures,
shouted really loud.
Shouted to the drivers. No, I didn't. I just the worst thing was obviously
out with a megaphone.
Phil Cooper, who runs Legends, was paying me round by round, but I didn't charge him because it wouldn't have been fair to. But it was a nice weekend, apart from the Legends photographer who was in the tent next door to me had this very loud snoring going on, which kept me awake. So no sleep, great weather, and some very good racing. And a little story, actually, if I may, we had
carry on.
The Ginetta Juniors were on the old G20s, the bubble-shaped ones, if you remember those. And Henry Surtees, God rest his soul, was racing. And I was standing next to then, who was a wee lad, Bobby Thompson, who of course is up in touring car, and a great driver. And Bob's was racing in karts then. He must have been about 11 or 12. And John Surtees was, I don't know if you saw John around the paddocks at all when Henry was racing, but in juniors, certainly, he was very hands-on, and he had his old style overalls on, clipboard, and he would get under the car and start spannering underneath it, writing stuff down and working on the car. We had a very, very old school. And I said to Bobby Thompson, do you know that guy is there? And he just looked at me blankly. And I said, John Surtees. No, still blank. And I said, well, he's the equivalent of Schumacher and Rossi rolled into one. He won the Bike World Championship and he won the Formula One World Championship. He's the only guy to do it. And Bobby Thompson said to me, "What, that old bloke?"
Oh, I love it.
Good thing you didn't hear him.
And I don't think John would have minded. I think about 2 weeks after that, I bought John's autobiography on eBay because I knew that obviously John was following Henry around with the juniors. I wasn't working on Ginetta then, but I bought the book and took it to Brands Hatch and asked him if he'd mind signing it. And the guy just opened it up, signed it, and thanked me for asking him.
Oh, brilliant!
Which is what a wonderful guy. He was just a lovely man, John. So very humble.
And I'm not surprised to hear that, because there's quite a few
Yeah.
of them that are like that. And I remember one of the, my dad came with me. Where was it? I think it was Brands Hatch, but I don't remember what race meet it was. I got a feeling that it was a historic meet, and it was the AC/DC frontman, Brian Jones. Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson was racing, and I got absolutely starstruck. And my dad watched me get starstruck trying to interview him. And he turned to me and said, Chris, remember something? They need you as much as you need them. If you don't interview them, they don't get the airtime. And I kind of went, oh, okay, that's right. And so I suddenly treated myself on a level with them, respect them wholeheartedly, but put myself, rather than being, thanks, sir, thank you, sir, thank you very much, sir. It's like be a bit more on a level. They opened up, and so many of them are genuine, and or picking up on your comment, Richard, is that they're human.
Yeah.
They're no different to you or I, but they've had success in something.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, to be fair, I was taught that once at a Goodwood Festival of Speed event. I think it was probably my first or second event I went there, and I was in the drivers club, and the team we were with at the time, because we were helping Spanner a Mark 1 Golf on the rally stage, and I was just absolutely in awe. I was around the likes of Jason Plato and all these big names that everybody knows, and there's just me. Just a couple of years ago, I was just a fan of motorsport, and I'm now in with all these people. And Dave, who we were with at the time, was like, "We're all here for the same reason. We're all fans of motorsport. Yes, these guys they've got lots of trophies and they've achieved great things in their respected category, but we're all fans of motor racing. This is why we do it." And then I had that same reason of actually, and then it just became a bit more natural. You have to step back a little bit and go, actually, we're all fans here. We all love doing what we're doing, and we're all passionate about it. So exactly. It's definitely a good way of looking at it, especially for people that are going up that level as such. So
I remember that I was stood chatting to Dario Franchitti, of course, a modicum of his success in IndyCar, let's say.
A little bit.
Scottish driver, as you can tell from his name. And I was chatting with him, and he was normally involved in the comms on Formula E. And he was away. I can't remember why he wasn't at it, but he was at Brands Hatch for this particular one. And we were stood behind the garages, and we were chatting about a few things. And the next thing is he's playing this message that who was it? It was Jack Nichols and Alan McNish had recorded for him from wherever the Formula E was that particular weekend. And he's like, "Oh, Chris, listen to this. And he's playing me a voicemail, his own private voicemail from these two, winding him up and having a giggle. And I'm stood there trying to act as cool as a cucumber. And my wife took photos from afar that was seeing me trying to just act like all nonchalant. This is normal. This is normal. Indy 500 winner and multiple champion is there playing me his private voicemail message. And you just have those pinch me moments in all this. It's bonkers.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one thing I love about motorsport. It's it's such a small world, isn't it? The people that you bump into, the people you get involved with. Oh yeah, absolutely. But it is surprising the doors that it opens, and the people you get to meet, and the passion that's involved in it. I love it. I can't get enough of it.
Agreed.
Definitely with the clubman side of things, it's everyone scrapes it together to get out onto the track. It's really where, all right, you can get a big sponsor and a big team and a big car, but your man down in Brands Hatch with his Formula V or his Fiesta or whatever the case may be, and he's up till 4 o'clock in the morning making sure that thing passes scrutiny at 7 o'clock. To get himself out for, not even an hour's worth of track time over the Sunday if you're lucky, but it's about going fast, isn't it? The smell of petrol, the burning rubber. That's what it is, really.
And the thing, just echoing on that there, Gavin, is that I love the fact that in a paddock where you've got tons of people with all their own things going on, you will find that everybody else wants to help everybody out. If there's somebody, as you say, up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I don't know, because they've blown their engine or something like that. The thing I love about club racing is multiple teams will buddy on in, get, I've got this part, we've got that part. Let's get, let's all get involved and get that car back out on track. And that's one thing I love about it.
I've been on the receiving end, as I said. I've bought that T-shirt back in the day in Mondello in Ireland, and again, like the teams like Leostone, Shane, all them people, like big teams in Ireland, they just, as you say, all right, maybe on a Sunday they wouldn't quite drop tools, but definitely on a Saturday, you know what I mean? They'll be the first ones there, as you say. Here's the spare bit, there's that bit, give it back to me afterwards. We'll figure it out later.
We'll sort it out later, yeah.
I tell you. And if it wasn't for people like that, people like myself wouldn't even have a chance, to be quite honest, even to get into it, So yeah, but I definitely encourage anyone to give it a go, because it's the best experience ever.
It's fantastic.
And it's interesting how that works, because I'm going to try to do this without naming any names whatsoever.
Sorry to name.
You can name drop as much as you want.
I'm not going to, for very specific reasons. It was a GT racing championship, but more on the national level. And there are one of my favourite, sort of almost that they are a team, but it's like a guy that I've got to know very well, that set this team up, and he's grown it and he's doing really, really well with it. And one of the top teams that was that were running a manufacturer's car. I'm desperately trying to tiptoe round to not get myself in trouble here, but it's such an interesting story that it's like they had a problem where I think they'd been in an incident and they needed something, and they came to him and said, have you got this by any chance? Because they had the same manufacturer's car. And he went, it's my last one, but I tell you what, yeah, absolutely, you can have it. Oh, how much do you want for it? No, don't panic. Just get yourself back out there racing, and I'm sure you'll shout it back to me when the time's right. Go. Get yourself sorted, get it sorted. So off they went, and they were obviously right at the forefront of the race and did incredibly well. The next race meeting, this privateer team, if you will, needed a part. So went to them and said, guys, any chance, have you got this? We've got this problem. And they went, no, sorry, it's our last one.
Oh.
It was like, yeah, it was my last one when I did it and I helped you. And this is like a team that does not need money. They're like fully equipped, and they just went no. And it's like, wow, that shows what we love and what we can hate about it as well.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
I've had people charge me £5 for a bag of cable toys before, as you say, and I've also had people give me after the weekend, any decent tires? Oh yeah, there you go. You have to. It comes around.
There's characters up and down the grid, isn't there?
We had it in the KA Enduro Championship. We had exhaust manifold split, so we need a new exhaust manifold which comes complete with the cat. So it's only a 4K but still expensive item, and the team who wanted it off needed a battery isolator, obviously £5 part, which we had. So they were like, we just swap. I'm like, all right. Yeah, no problem. There's your isolator. I'll take the exhaust. Cheers.
Richard, have you commented on the Enduro KA yet?
No.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah, it looks like great fun. You do the grid, and I was watching. It might have been yourself doing it. I think Mark Werrell was on it as well. But you do the grid graphic, and it just goes on and on and on because there's so many people in it.
Well, Mark Werrell, and I know he's actually commented, evening Mark, if you're still watching, he and I work brilliantly together. Love having a giggle with Mark Werrell. And he did one at least once at Brands Hatch where he was racing as well as commentating, and he was running back and forth doing it, which I'm very envious about, because that's the one thing is that I'm like going, I got to go and get my race license, and the Enduro KA is something that I'd go and do. Funnily enough, people kept saying, you should make a commentary team, and Mark Werrell went, no, it's okay. He knows that I'm not going to be good enough. I'm not good enough.
Oh, Chris, what's he saying?
I can't disagree with him.
We've had it a few times at the KA, and I think Chris, you've got me a couple of times. But when we're jumping in and out of the cars and all the rest of it, and going down the pit lane, do you boys like being out on the pit lane and commentating what's going on in the pits and grabbing the drivers nice and sweaty and getting the raw emotion?
Oh, I love that. I love that, because that's that's me taking myself to the person on the spectator bank of whatever age I happen to have been, is that I'm there going, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? What did they just experience? What were they thinking when that happened? And so I will always love grabbing that person. And thankfully, I always have got a smile on my face when I'm doing it, even if I know they're probably about to spit bullets.
Yeah.
I'm like, kind of like, but it's okay. I'm going to ask you in a nice way.
You can tell me. You can tell me.
Exactly. Yeah.
I won't tell
And
anyone.
at 6'3", they don't tend to get too stroppy, so it's okay. It's fine.
Oh, I love that.
I love the fact that Mark's even turned around and said that that was a true story, that he refused to team up with me. That I know, Mark, it's a true story. I know.
Do you know what? Actually, obviously the conversation's flowing beautifully, but I'll just get on to some of the comments because
apologies, I shouldn't have been reading them, but I did see them.
No, absolutely not. Like I say, there is Mark Werrell. I hope you're well, mate.
Yeah.
And yeah, there you go. He did say it is a true story. I love that. We've also, let's go back to the start of some of the comments as well, because everyone's being incredibly patient. There you go. So John Sandblaster Tyson, evening Dawesy the legend.
Evening Sandblaster. Look
Here's
at that
one
Rover SD1. I just
I
adore
cannot wait to see that car out. I cannot
Please
wait to see
don't.
that car out. I've got to put this one up.
I tell you, and I've got to say, by the way, John Sandblaster Tyson, you got to go and see his YouTube channel, because he actually shows, he does sandblasting. He'll get all sorts of classic cars and he's sandblasting the old paint off it. The appreciation when you see layer after layer that he's getting rid of this paint is so satisfying. It's unbelievable.
I love watching stuff like that.
So good.
Oh, so what we got? I've got to bring this one up as well, Chris, quickly. Mr. Stuart Pye of the classic touring cars.
Yes. And he messaged me as well to make sure I knew that as well. Yeah.
Bless you. Sorry,
he
Stuart,
knows I
him for a
adore.
little bit.
Yeah, classic touring car racing club. I adore you guys wholeheartedly.
Yeah. I love it. And we got Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
There we go. Let's get one more up. So you got Jake Wardle as well. I think this one's for you, Richard. Hello, Richard. I was at Scholarship last week and did the presentation about baking, and you said that I didn't have helmet hair.
Yeah. Do you know what? That young man was, when you're doing the scholarships and you're doing the media interviews, there's always you were talking about it, Nick, in the news, and £65,000 prize valued at. So if you were going to a business meeting for a £65,000 contract, how would you present yourself?
Well, you'd want to be prim, proper, and trying to set an impression, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Well, young Wardle there, no helmet hair, proper parting, immaculate hair. We commented on it. He really did look the business. And yeah, a lot of the youngsters, some youngsters, they don't get time on these scholarships to change into a jacket and trousers and stuff. Some do go that extra one, and it doesn't make them win the scholarship, but it helps you remember them. And I remember him. He was absolutely spot. He's actually a friend of Simon Hill, who's a great friend I used to work with, and Simon still great friends, thankfully. And obviously dad of Jake. Yeah, I don't know whether size watching it, but he was giving some advice. But yeah, that youngster, he's going to go places. Look the part, and he was quick on track as well, and did a great media presentation for us too.
And that's the thing, isn't it?
Pretty sure it was him that I commentated on Sunday in the Hyundai Coupe Cup E-Series as well. He did very well.
Yeah. But this is the thing. So obviously, actually, that'll lead us on quite nicely. Obviously, you guys do a little bit of media training and things like that. So how does that, obviously, seeing the youngsters coming up through the ranks, and as you say, some people at club level, I know they just want to go out at the weekend, race with their friends, go home. They're not too worried about how they present themselves in front of a camera. But obviously nowadays with social media and things like that, it's such a massive part of trying to climb that motorsport ladder. I mean, how do you find it these days, guys, with the whole media training stuff?
It's almost unfair that people assume, I can do my talking on the circuit. And I'd be interested to hear, I can see straight away from his reaction that sadly in this day and age more than ever is that no, that's only a part of it. I've seen some phenomenal racing drivers that just don't have the confidence, and we call it media training. I kind of think it's bigger than that, is that it's interaction with the media, with the sponsors, with the spectators, with your teammates, with your competitors, with your mechanics. Everything has an impact on where you're likely to go as a career. So if you're looking for a career, you need to learn to interact. And it always makes me laugh that these guys will sit there strapped into a rocket and go over 100 mile an hour into the first corner with 10, 20, 30 of their bloodthirsty rivals around them. And they do that every single day without batting an eyelid. But the idea of having a microphone, a camera, a room full of sponsors in front of them scares the bejesus out of them.
Yeah.
Go figure. You know, one could kill you, the other one really couldn't ever.
Yeah.
But Richard, yours is a more professional side of it because you've been doing this for years, haven't you?
Yeah, I sort of struggle with media training a little bit in terms of I think the last 3 people that have come to me and asked for some coaching on specific areas, I would do a little bit of a fact find, have a look at them, and I actually turned the last 3 down and said I don't think I can add enough value for what I would charge. So I'm getting a reputation for turning people down, but if I think they can, then I will offer something and maybe try and tailor something for them. I tend not to do the same stuff over and over, but I think a lot of them now, Nick, you hit the nail on the head. You know, social media and things like that. A lot of the youngsters are a lot more positive with the advent of live streaming, and there is so much content out there now. I actually think that the drivers themselves aren't a problem. I think interviewers are a problem a lot of the time.
Oh, okay.
I
That's
think
an interesting angle. Yeah.
Because Steve Ryder, who I'm privileged to work with on ITV, said to me, Richard, there's no such thing as a bad answer, only a bad question.
Okay.
It's the stock questions, isn't it? That's the problem.
Yeah, and I think Steve's right. I mean, it is 6 of one and half dozen the other, but there is a thing, and live streaming again. You know, you can't fault some of the interviewers because they might not be able to see what's going on in the race, and you know, could easily miss a key point in the race. It's so easy to do because you're getting backstories or trying to find other things.
Oh yeah,
you can miss out. But I actually think maybe there should be more focus on helping youngsters, particularly coming in to the industry now, to sort of up the game a little bit for, you know, interviewing skills and stuff like that.
But interestingly, Richard, is that I do turn around and say we can't control who you're going to be interviewed by. So if you've got someone that just comes with a stock question, a yes, no, answer question, whatever, you need to turn that around and grab the bull by the horn. Why? Because this is your opportunity to get heard, to get the exposure, to be seen or heard by someone, and you never know who. Which is not fair, is it, Richard? But tough, really, isn't it? Because they need to do it because they've got to get that exposure. My biggest claim to fame on the media train, and you've already mentioned him actually, is Bobby Thompson, and he is just an absolute media darling, and yet he wasn't all that confident to start with, and I trained him just before he went into the touring cars, and he's brilliant. You know, go for it and be yourself, and he is exactly that, and that's the biggest thing I try to get people to do. Apparently, he had someone try to tell him he needed to get rid of his Essex accent.
Oh, goodness.
How ridiculous is that?
Move to France for a few years, then come back.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Is nowadays, I guess I mentioned social media and stuff like that. You can have I call them sheeple. You get it in all aspects of life, don't you? Where everybody does the same thing. You got the same kind of. But every now and again, you get that character pop out. You know, you get that one person who's just got a super.
Don't you love them the most, Richard? The characters that jump out at you.
I mean, particularly on scholarships, a lot of people go off and do media training, presentation training to come on the scholarship, and to be honest, they're sheeple. They're clones. They rock up. They march in, practice handshake. Here's my driver pack. We've seen it all before. You don't want that. You want something a little bit. And Greg Graham actually put together. Well, we sat down and put together the Fiesta Junior Scholarship interview panel. And Greg, normally with Janetta, what we do is we would do expect more of a formal presentation from the finalists to us on the last day. But Greg said, no, let's get people to do it up front, and it's part of the condition of them entering that they deliver a just 90 seconds presentation on anything they want. And it was really good, because with some of the youngsters it broke the ice straight away, and we were hooked on what they were saying. We learned so much, even to, like, I think the first one came in and did a presentation on diet and fitness, so I'm holding my tummy in because I'm thinking and then we had another guy came in, an absolute mint one, did a presentation about the Rubik's Cube, and gave Graham, who is the Formula Development Director of BRSCC, gave him the cube, said muck it up. So Greg's doing that, handed it over to me, I'm doing it. And as we were doing that, this youngster was doing the talk about the history of the Rubik's Cube, and then halfway through his presentation took the cube off of us and carried on the presentation and solved it.
No way.
So when he gets on the podium, and he's racing next year next season in the juniors. So I've said to the folk there, make sure you got a Rubik's Cube to throw at him when you do and he'll do it. And it's a lovely, and that's the kind of, Chris, that's the kind of story you take. And even if he doesn't get on the podium, if I'm commentating on him in a race, I'll remember that youngster for for doing that presentation and his association with the cube, and that he can multitask, unlike most of us blokes.
Well, it is. It's about creating something a little bit different. I mean, I always think, and he's not a youngster, he's an elderly guy, but a guy called Stuart Wiltshire that used to race in the F3 Cup back in the day, and he's now racing in the Masters in an LMP1 Peugeot. And people used to be terrified of interviewing him because he was an absolute liability. You never knew what you're going to get from him. It could be swearing, it could be rude, it could be hilarious, it could be choosing that he didn't want to speak. And I absolutely adored it, because for me, it's like going, it wasn't about the people thought it was the challenge. It's like, no. I like that he's going something different. He's doing something different to everybody else. Yeah. And he appreciated that I got him, and he and I just connected and always had a laugh when we were interviewed. And it's like going, that's the difference. Whereas everyone's kind of going, oh, this doesn't compute to what I'm used to, interviewing. It's like, well, then embrace it, go with it, have some fun with it. I just love that. People like Lucky Carer, for example, I adore interviewing him because he's like the happiest. He feels privileged to do everything that he's doing. And it's like, well, interview him. And I just adore that when people are a little bit different and being themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's
agree
the big
with that.
one for me.
I like that. Right, so what we'll do, talking of characters then, so that's something that can bring us on quite nicely. Other commentators that you believe, who is your favorite people to work with, that, they've got a character about them? I'm going to bring this picture up, obviously, Richard, because I think a lot of people know this guy.
Legend.
Mr. OE. Bless him. Obviously, X-Racer, he's a fan favorite, isn't he? So, like, is there anybody out there that you absolutely love working with because of their?
I'm lucky. Everyone I've worked with, trackside or screen side or whatever, is great. But I will say Paul. Paul is very popular and deservedly so. He's 100% gent. Yeah. Funny. He's all the things I wish I was. But can never be. No, he's just very, very, very good. And I'm not, I work with Phil Glue as well, and Phil is excellent as well, but in different ways. But what Paul and Phil do, and what they bring to the party, is being able to, do that driver role, spot the tiniest thing on screen. I'm looking at a screen now. I'm watching you guys and my ugly self on a probably 12-inch screen, so it's quite small, and that's pretty much the size we get in the ITV studio. We don't get a great big 48-inch plasma screen, so it's a tiny screen. But Paul and Phil, they'll pick the tiniest little thing going on with the car, which is amazing in itself, but also they will articulate what's happening and why. And they do it quickly. And those guys, Simon Hill used to do it as well back in the day. So I can't do that role. And this is the differentiation between, I think, a lot of drivers now. I saw some fairly derogatory stuff on social media today about well, not a young guy, but someone who's getting middle-aged commentating, getting a lot of stick for doing it. And they were saying, well, you know, he didn't have anyone to help him, but he's still better than the drivers that used to do it and are taking paydays. And I think commentators now either have to be the journalistic background or maybe enthusiasts, as Chris was, or the driver background. But I still think there's a market for good journalists. And when a couple of youngsters, you know, very often come and talk to me at touring car meetings and say, what do I need to do? And there are some very good youngsters studying hard the journalistic side to get into it.
Yeah.
But you know, equally there are some good drivers that can call races properly as well.
I would like to see the return, picking up on what you're saying there, Richard, before I answer your original question, is that I think that there's also a turn for returning to the commentator and pundit.
Okay.
You know, I think because quite often it's two commentators, but there are certain people that kind of go, well, don't worry about commentating, but be a pundit, because then it's a very different skill set for all of that.
It is.
And I think that there are times, and that includes some that are maybe getting later in their career that aren't necessarily as quick, but their knowledge, their experiences, their things that they can give us. So therefore, let them be the pundit style of things, and that would work really, really well. But also picking up on your comment, I love Paul O'Neill. He and I get to work together occasionally, whether it's done a couple of times when I've hosted awards dues and he's been the guest speaker, and he and I have bounced off each other. Classic Touring Car Racing Club recently that we did with that one as well. The supercar, the not so secret supercar day, he and I get to work together, and we just have such a laugh. The guy is naturally bonkers and hilarious, isn't he? Yeah. There's no effort there, is there?
No, and he's, as I say, total 100% genuine in my opinion.
Totally. I don't think he appreciates himself as much as he should do. I would go that far. Genuinely believe that. So yeah, I get it. And because you asked a question, Nick, is that I would turn around and say the people that probably stand out the most for me. I've got to be really careful because I get to work with a lot of amazing commentators, and I will say that across the board. But
don't put yourself in an awkward situation.
I don't think it is that my two favourites tend to be Mark Werrell and Chris Hartley. Is that I adore working with those two that I get to do. I can safely say that because I've sadly not had the privilege of working with Richard. One day I'm hopeful that we will do, because we catch up at circuits enough, don't we, Richard? But we're on.
Yeah, we do. I've got to say, I'm not blowing smoke up your chuffer, but when I remember actually one particular example, I think you were working at it was a touring car some meeting, and it was at Snetterton. Someone said, "Who's commentating today?" And at that point, I'd been wandering around the paddock, had a listen, and I said, "That's Chris Dawes," and the guy said, "Really loving it." And I said, "Yep, you're in for a good day." And Chris, listening to you on a day when I'm not working, and I go to a few track race meetings when I'm not working, just going to maybe just watch my favourite formula or just chew the fat with people. I get as much pleasure listening to you from sitting out on the bank, listening to you and whoever you're working with, as I used to the great Brian Jones back in the day. You're an absolute great. It is what you said. You know, you're talking to us, and you're just, I don't know, it's just a nice person to listen to.
That's it. I'm retiring now. Richard John Neal has just did that.
Carry on. It is.
I can't beat that. Bless you.
People genuinely enjoy what you do.
Thank you. Wow, I'm humbled. I'm massively humbled. And actually, the Brian Jones thing is an interesting one, because I've always said one of the most mind-blowing compliments that I got was I was at Brands Hatch and I came down to do an interview that happened to be not the mid podium. It was on the pit lane podium. And I think it may have been Roy Salisbury way back when the first I properly met him, or it was one of the other guys there that was on the gantry, and came over to me and said, is Brian up there? And I went, who? Brian Jones. I went, no. He said, well, who's commentating? I said, that was me. He went, oh my God, I thought that was Brian Jones. I went, I will take that, because that guy's an institution, an absolute legend. I adore that so much. That was really lovely.
No, I love it.
But yeah, thank you, Richard. That is humbling for you. And for me, it's just like I like bouncing off of my commentators, my co-commentators, you know, and having fun with them. And yeah, just so many good ones that I get to work with. It's an absolute privilege, really is.
Ah, it's good. It's good. So there you go, Gav. Some nice, some good info there for you for sure.
I'd love to have a few names myself, but I've obviously had a few co-commentators on the sim side of things, and as you say, it's great when you really have someone there you're able to bounce off, because then the time, I know that with the race the time goes by anyway, but you almost forget you're watching a race when you're bouncing off this other co-commentator, because you're just having such a good time, and yeah, it's a good bit of crack like that one. To be fair,
I like it. Love it. Right, so what I'll do, guys, I'm just going to pop back to the comments again because we've got a few more popping up. If anyone's... here we go. So what we got here then? So... Oh, there you go. So Chris Savage, Dawes does like to creep up on you in the pit lane.
always.
I must say,
ironically, it shows that photo as you show the on the screen. It shows the photo of me.
Straight away, microphone in the face.
Yeah.
See, I love that because, as you say, for us drivers, literally get out the car. We've just been focusing on what we've been doing, and then bang, straight into it. It does.
Yeah. It's not even a warning either, is it? It's not even a little chat before. Right, we're going to go live. It's like, oh, Steph, how was that?
There's no fluffing beforehand. Definitely not.
But that's good though, isn't it? Because as you say, you guys get the raw. You get it just as it's there, and for everybody listening, they get to. I mean, you don't know what's going to come out half the time, but it's
the biggest. I remember though that you've got. I do, contrary to public opinion, I do judge it though, because I remember going back quite a few years now. It was still Blancpain GT Challenge at the time, and the Bentley team were there, and I can't remember for the life of me the driver name, and it's probably just as well. The Bentley had gone out, and the co-driver was in the garage, and I was quite wet behind the ear at the time, but it was like where I was like, get in there, just get in there with the mic, just go, just get the mic stuck in there, because you can't wait around, because a driver will say no if you give him too much chance to. And I went in and tried. I don't remember the exact question, but it was about, how does he feel? And he absolutely ripped me a new one, because, of course, he was thoroughly wound up that their car had just gone out. I don't remember whether they were taken out or it was his teammate's mistake or whatever. But he was horrible to me. And because I was wet behind the ear, it totally threw me at the time. And I was like, oh, my God, I shouldn't have done that. But what it actually taught me was not to not do it, but to just look, judge, and know, do I need to wait a little bit? I mean, it's like, absolutely, I'll jump in and I'll get it when it's hot off the press.
Yeah.
But I now know when it's possibly beyond that point.
Once all the things have stopped being thrown around.
Yes. That was a bit too far in the professional world. I mean, it's a very different gravy there. But yeah, you do learn pretty quick when you get abused on the mic, and you got to try and cover it off live as well. It's a bit tricky.
I was going to say, how do you do that? You don't have a live beeper, do you? You can't press a button on beep, 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 beep.
It doesn't happen. I don't know about what you, Richard, but it doesn't happen very often, to be fair, the swearing. But you just kind of roll with it and go, apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen, if you heard some colourful language.
We'll talk to this guy over here.
I think my first one was, do you remember the Power Tour? Do you remember the Power Tour?
Yes.
So if you remember Power, it was British GT and F3 and trying to make a package of it. And Court Oyster swore on my first podium. But all you can do is say, apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I think Cole's a bit excited.
Emotions were high.
You can only imagine what the driver feels then, because he knows he's wrecked it.
It's one of the reasons they have females, isn't it, in pit lane, or started having females in pit lane, because from the psychological point of view, blokes are less likely to swear at say Lou Goodman or whoever is female in pit lane. Although that has changed quite a lot. There are a lot more sort of blokes interviewing in pit lane, but that historically that was why that was one of the reasons why we had, as Colin Stankham called them, pit lane popsies.
Okay.
Whereas I rock up with my long locks and make them because I'm worth it.
I'm not saying nothing. And I'm
Is
outnumbered
that a
tonight.
bit of a trend, is it? The stress.
It does, mate.
Yeah.
Well, it will take a matter of time, mate. That's all it
We're
takes.
getting there.
Motorsport, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Right. Well, what we'll do, guys, obviously this shows we've been an hour and 15 into it now. We'll go last few questions. There is one here for you, Richard, as well. Mr. Robert Lewis, racing and commentary. Obviously, used to be the host of our very own podcast, and he's now gone on to become a commentator, and a very good one at that. I will give him that. But yeah, look at that, taking it as a bucket list, commentating with your good self at SNET BRSEC meeting last year.
Yeah, it was good fun. It was, it's a people business, isn't it? And to meet you guys, and again, thank you for inviting us on. It's very kind of you. It's the whole thing is a people business is why you stay in it, and you meet new people, and you get to see people that you already know again, and catch up with them. That's the great thing about the scholarships for me. It's technically it's work, but all right, I'm not working on the BRSEC Junior Championship this year. I'll be doing the non-championship round at the start, but I'm not working on any of the others at the moment. I'm not working on the TCR dates. But some of those people that I've interviewed over the last week, they're going to pop up in other formulae later on. So that's the start of the process for me. And once they've met me, I want my first conversation with them to be in the paddock, not on the podium. I want to have that, get through that. Get to know that barrier, and there is a barrier. Chris will know this. That any time, and I've on media training, I always say, go and talk to the people that are going to be interviewing on the podium before you get the podium.
Yes.
Had it with the lad that was in South African lad that was in F4, and I kept saying to him, go and introduce yourself to Louise because you're going to get a podium. And he didn't do it. He said, I'll do it next week. And then he drove from 7th, Akil Alibi was up from 7th on the grid into the lead, got the win. Got the interview, and he watched it back. He said, "Oh, it would have been better if I'd spoken to her first, wouldn't it?"
And there you go.
It was a fine interview, but there would have been more familiarity had he had a conversation first. So we implore people to do that.
Well, I make the comment saying we're simple folk in the fact that if you feed information into us, it sits at the front of our brain, and when there's things that we need to look for, it falls down and out of our mouth. So come and have conversations with us, and some of the best exposure that drivers have had is when, it was a lot better when I used to have the motorhome and I'd be in the paddock over the course of the weekend, and there was sensible either drivers or their families or whatever, and they'd suddenly be just chatting to me down in the paddock. And I wasn't being daft. I was sort of like either making notes at that point, or I was mental notes, and then I'd get back into the motorhome and crack open a gin occasionally and make the notes down ready for the next day. And guess what? We're suddenly doing it. There are times when there isn't so much going on in the race or on circuit.
Got that.
And you've got stuff to regurgitate. You made the comment saying, "Oh, you guys make it sound like you know so much on their backstory." That's not all down to us. That's down to us encouraging those drivers to come and speak to us. Let us know these interesting facts. And sometimes it's not I've raced this many things and I've done this and I've achieved that. It's like going, no. I want to know about you as a person. Yeah. What have you been doing? What's your family's background? What are the sponsors that you've got on your car and the relationship you've got? I don't know, anything. It's these weird and wonderful stories that we then get to share.
Yeah. I love that. Absolutely love that. Right. So what I'll do, guys, I should bring up some pictures actually, really, because we've been chatting all along, haven't we? It's for anyone.
You thought this was only going to be a 1 hour show, didn't you?
It's never 1 hour.
We talk for a living.
You have to drag us off.
Well, this is the thing. To me and Steph said when we brought the podcast back, we were like, we'll just keep the shows short and sweet, and people. And so far, every single show we've done, the conversation's been incredible. But so what we'll go on to obviously talk about is your 2024 plans. I'll bring up some pictures whilst we're doing it. Chris, we'll go to you first. What have you got planned for 2024?
Oh, crikey.
Lots of thumbs up for it.
Definitely. No, it's definitely thumbs up again. I'm full for the year. I'm very, very privileged. I always feel humbled by this, is that I remember back in the day, I used to rock up at Autosport show in the January, sort of with maybe a dozen or so dates in the diary, and be going around trying to meet with people and get more, kind of the giz job type conversations. And over the last, I don't know, three or 4 years, exclude obviously pandemic year, is that I'm full by December, and I'm trying desperately to actually see my wife and daughter occasionally. Although they didn't say the same, interestingly. My daughter's just wandered past going, no, I don't want to see you.
No.
She's 12 going on 21, so you know what I'm getting right now.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well.
Exactly. In fact, they've turned around and said, isn't it March yet, Dad? But literally...
Shouldn't you be somewhere else?
Exactly. March through to November, full up. And it's like everything from, we were talking about the great club racing. I mean, my profile for the year goes... Coombe gets the first call on my dates because they gave me my break, and I will never, ever forget that. And it's my home circuit. I love the place. So they will always be the first dates in the diary. MSV came second because they gave me the next kick on from thereafter. And I'll always remember things like that. And I've got British GT, I've got American Speed Fest again, which is one of my favorite events of the year.
Great event.
GT Cup, which I adore. That thing is just an incredible, that officially has got to come under club racing, I guess, to some extent. And I'm doing most of their rounds, and a number of, we've mentioned Enduro KA, I'm doing a number of Enduro KAs as well. And it's just a big old mix of things that I cannot wait to get started again.
Oh, brilliant.
But I do actually have a few more weekends off than usual this year, because I don't want to. After last year's scare that we were talking about, the heart scare, is that I want the occasional weekend off, or one day meets are okay. I don't know about you, Richard. I always used to be sort of like, it's got to be a 2-day race meet. It's got to be a 2-day. And it's like, no, actually, do you know what? To work one day is okay, and have Sunday with the family is all right.
That's a good point, actually. I think I got a couple of one-day meetings this year. I hadn't actually thought of it that way, but you're right. It is nice to... The trouble is, though, when you're sitting at home and you think on a Sunday, it feels like a Monday because...
True.
Yeah.
Because you're at a racetrack the day before, so the days get...
It does. So it all blurs into one then.
It does.
Yeah.
I've got some myself, just I do the commentary for an SSRL on Tuesdays, just finished up FO5 on Thursdays there as well. And to be honest, I'm trying to knock down the door. I've been emailing MSV, BRDCC and all that stuff, all the guys. And I think you guys were even earlier on saying that there's so many different types of motorsport out there, from rallycross to bike racing to club circuit racing. Sure, there's lawnmower racing and everything.
Yeah.
So, I've been emailing everyone and anyone I can about it. That's how I got in touch with Nick here, and hopefully I'll have a few more plans coming up sooner rather than later. But again, I'm down at Brands Hatch for the British Touring Car there for the weekend, and then I'll see you, Chris, hopefully at the Speed Fest. I do have tickets to that as well, so I might.
Have you done it yet? Have you been there before?
I was there last year. I brought my dad and my brother, and then this year I'm bringing my mum and my brother.
Then you missed me this time, because it was the weekend before that I had my heart scare. That meant that I actually missed Speedfest, and I was devastated to actually miss out on that one, because it's my favourite event of the year. I adore that thing.
It is a cracking event.
Awesome. So I'll see you on the Sunday.
But that's the thing, Gav. Obviously, as you mentioned, the reason we put this show together, obviously, we wanted to talk about the comms box and such, but then we wanted to get yourself on because you're looking to break into it. Obviously, these guys are stalwarts in what they do, so it is about getting out there, getting your name out there, get to some events, or just do what Chris did, just break into the comms box and lock the door behind you.
That's it. Well, I don't. The guys said for it. The guys are fully booked, so if you know anything, give us a shout. As I said, look, I've got the tent and all. Look, I'm just like everyone else out there. Yourself. We do it for the passion. So,
absolutely. Like I say, we could carry on chatting after this about getting you getting you in contact with some people. So there's no harm in that. But
yeah.
And then Richard, what plans have you got for the year? Like fully, are you fully?
Same as previous years, really. I've probably got a little bit more. Last year was a little bit lighter. I used to do more post-production stuff, so where people would film, edit it down, and it would come to me. But with live streaming now, that's sadly disappeared. And I say sadly because I think edited programs are a more considered product.
Yeah,
I think they'll come back. I think when you watch a live stream, you've got to sort of pick your way through 6 or 7 hours of content to find the 15 minutes you want to see. Whereas if you've got if you've got 3 or 4 races in an edited hour-long program, that's nicer. But that's gone. I've kind of embraced it. Started work with on live streams, which I didn't really ever think I would do, but I'm glad I did. And I do more presenting now on that, and I BRSEC threw me into it. I blame them, 100%. And it's just really weird how fate goes, isn't it? That you end up doing something. I mean, to me, that was out of my comfort zone because I'm happy in the commentary box talking to people because you've got a microphone and you're looking out of the window and you're not actually addressing anybody.
Yeah.
But put me in front after dinner speaking. I hate doing the MC bit. I absolutely detest it. I really I do them occasionally, and I do them for if it's great friends. Like I did the Rod Burley's club, the classic and modern motorsport. I did their do last year, and we did it as a Q&A. But I'm really uncomfortable standing in front of people doing that kind of thing. To be honest, I did Janetta a couple of years ago as well. Paul did it much better than I did. Paul O'Neill did it much better than I did last year. But again, I do if I know the people well enough, then I'm comfortable enough to do it, but it's not in my comfort zone. So presenting was a little bit weird, really, and it took me out of my comfort zone, which is a good thing to do as I edge closer towards retirement. But I've really enjoyed it. I actually like the presenting.
I love watching you on the BRSEC stuff. It's just brilliant.
Oh, it's nice of you, thank you. It was lovely of them to have the sort of faith in me to do it. I was chatting to them last week about some dates, and they were saying, have you got your commentator book for one of the formerly that were representatives that were there? And they said, not yet, but we're going to give you a call. And I said to them, what do you want me to do? And the BRSEC guy, get him to present. And I said, that's because there's less time with me on the mic, isn't it then? But it is nice that they think I can do it. So and it's nice for me to be known as a commentator for the touring car supports, and also maybe a bit of presentation as well. And as I said, I'm still learning that and actually enjoying it. So
I love it. And that's the main thing, isn't it? If we're enjoying what we're doing, it's it becomes a bit easier to do, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh well, guys, I think we'll round that up at an hour and a half. What do you reckon?
One last question.
Can I just say, if anyone's watching it, and you four as well, if you see me at the track, come and say hello. Sometimes I don't always get to see people, but come and say hello, handshake. If you've got a name to say, just say hello. We'd love to see it's any of your viewers on here. Because you guys make it. For us, so.
We tend to just use each other down the pit lane when we see each other, Richard, don't we? To be fair.
But this is the thing. Going back to the whole being around particular people like Richard, Chris. Before I would have been, as I said, going into the show, I was a little bit starstruck when you guys were like, "Yeah, we'll come and do the show." So when it started, I was a bit like, "Oh my god, these guys do this professionally," and I'm just some pleb that talks about motorsport every now and again, and I don't know a great deal about it. I just know I'm passionate about it. Same as him over there, old Steph.
And that's what counts.
Do you know what? I mean, thing is, you guys are running something that's got a good following, really nicely put together, and there's absolutely no reason to be starstruck or otherwise, because I couldn't do this kind of thing that you guys have done, and you've got a good good standing.
I'm still learning.
So we all do. We all learn till we pop our clog. So hopefully I'll still be learning before I take my last breath. And it's nice that you've got youngster like Gavin on, and good luck, Gavin, with your with your work, and you never know, we might get to do something at some stage.
And in terms of for you, Gavin, is that just keep going and keep patient is what I would say, because sadly there's an awful lot of luck involved as well, and I'm sure Richard would agree with that one as well. Over the years, is that there's a massive amount of luck, but and I'm going to pick up on a comment Richard made that was great to hear Richard say it as well, because everybody asked me like, oh, how can I do it? What's the biggest piece of advice? And it's like going, look, do you know what? There was an awful lot of luck that I got where I got in the first place. But the biggest piece of advice I would give is be reliable.
Yeah. Yeah,
and you would think that that's an obvious comment, but the answer, sadly, is no. I picked up a lot of work in my early days due to someone else messing someone else around. That's as much as I will say. And they were suddenly like going, oh, could you be available this weekend? And I'm like, yes, of course I can, because I was in my early days, picked up this stuff, and I was reliable. And that
good.
but I'll be honest and say is that I think that there are much better commentators out there than me, but because I've been reliable, it's stuck with it.
I actually don't like the word better. There are different ones, and people have different styles, and that was touched on earlier on. There isn't a better or worse.
And yes, I do agree with you there. But if you sort of like looked at what should be covered, is that occasionally I fall between the cracks because I just have too much of a laugh and I forget I'm supposed to be professional every now and again. And I get that. But that has also got me work because of that style occasionally as well. Yeah, it probably means I'll never do Goodwood Revival, for example. They'll never get me to do something like that.
Never say never.
I very much doubt it. I genuinely very much doubt it. But, it's like be reliable, be there. But you've also got to be patient, is that you'll pick up bits and pieces when at the last minute, when you least expect it. Do those ones in the early stages, get those opportunities. And grab them by both hands and be passionate and see where it takes you thereafter. Don't expect the world from day one. You might be lucky and get a fast track. You might have to do a few years of putting the graft in, but being there, people get to know you, to hear you, and that's where it comes from. I feel ridiculously lucky, and everybody's journey is a little bit different, and I would encourage everybody to keep plugging away 100%.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, no, 100%.
I'd 100% agree with that, obviously on a different level, but yeah, just being passionate about the motorsport and saying to myself, I want to get involved, volunteering to help out local teams. Then it snowballed really, and I never thought I'd be sat here having a podcast interview with you guys. As I said earlier, I've been in the driver's lounge. I was at the Goodwood Ball last year. How does
that's things happen? I haven't done that. I haven't done that, for Christ's sake.
It's just honestly, I would never envisage I'd do half the stuff. I've got trophies now. I've won races. Never thought that was ever going to be possible at all.
Agreed. So, what I would say though, Gavin, is don't feel that you need to do things for free. Don't damage the industry. There isn't a need to do that. I don't know what Richard's take on that is, but is that it almost does more harm than good when you'll sort of go, yeah, I'll do that for free. It's like, no, you're worth something.
Yeah. With all due respect, as you say, like, look, there'll be a situation, maybe a quid pro quo kind of thing, but as you say, you know what I mean? Like it'd be to try and get the foot in the door and show people how good I can be, or you know what I mean, if they're happy, But I've got the tent there, and as you say, Chris, like, if someone came,
you're determined to sleep in that tent, aren't you?
I tell you, I am. I've done it. I've done it in Anglesey, as I said back in the day with my father. Rained out, we had to sleep in the trailer. So yourselves, has to be done though.
Funny story, actually. Going back to the whole wanting to do this, I was spannering for a local team in Bournemouth, Vulcan Racing team. Used to race the old Mark 3 and 4 Fiestas, and my second ever event, it might have been my first event, was, we're going to Anglesey, do you want to come with us? I was like, yeah. I took my little 2-man tent with me, sat in their motorhome for 7 hours listening to their cutlery clanging away, and I kid you not, how I didn't end up in the ocean whilst I was in my tent, because the wind there was horrendous, and I was still sat there the Fiestas at, I don't know, I think I must have been early 20s at the time, going, I'm at a motorsport event, this is the most amazing thing I've ever done.
And you should never lose that wonder, I think. No, it doesn't matter how many years, just never lose that wonder and appreciation, no matter what. Is because I've always, like, everybody gets surprised, is that I still get nervous as hell. Like even coming on tonight's show, when I go and do the commentary gigs, when I host the awards nights, all those kind of things. I'm nervous as hell. No one believes me, but I've always said the day that I don't get nervous is the day I'll stop doing it, because it means I either don't care anymore or I've become arrogant, both as bad as each other.
Ah.
So,
That's good then, because I was as nervous as hell coming on here tonight.
Then you can keep doing it, mate. That's all right.
I'll keep doing it.
I love the fact, by the way, I've just had I see one of the comments that Perfect Acceleration Sim have said you'd all be welcome with us on our future E-Series events. We'd all do that, guys. Definitely.
100%.
I did during lockdown. I don't know what you did, Richard, during lockdown, but I ended up commentating on quite a few of the Sim series and stuff like that. And I found that there's quite a future in having gin whilst commentating. I know you're surprised at me saying that, aren't you? But there's quite a future there.
There's another.
I will just say, actually, Richard, that's one that you commentate on, isn't it?
Yeah, back on that. I was off last week because I was away, but yeah, back on tomorrow evening, and that's what I did in lockdown. We did the this one's not actually sanctioned by the official championship, but during lockdown we had 2 seasons of official mini racing, which I was pleased to do. And I find sim commentary quite difficult, actually.
It is, but it's also fun as well. Don't you find that the fact that you are always watching some key action and you get told a lot more information was quite good. I was doing during lockdown, I was it's peak. I was doing like being paid to commentate on about 4 different series a week. Which my liver was taking a beating, I tell you. But the good news is that I was quid in. It was fine. It was covering the gin. It was not a problem.
I'm getting less and less surprised about this health scare you had.
Yeah, it's all adding up now, isn't it? It's all making sense.
Yeah. We're getting.
This Sunday just gone, the Hyundai Coupe Cup asked me to do it, and honestly, so much fun that I just love doing it. It's just good entertainment. Sit back and have some fun and commentate on it, because that's what we love. We love racing.
That's it. It's fun, isn't it? I mean, Nick, you very kindly asked me to come along, and a couple of youngsters had asked about doing interviews over the last couple of years, and I've been a bit of a grumpy person and said no, because I'm not sure people actually want to listen to me prattle on. But one of the youngsters that had asked me, when you asked me, I thought, do you know what? It'll be fun. I'll do it. And I actually did write to him and say, I'm sorry I turned you down 2 years ago, but I've just to let you know I've agreed to do one for the Club Racing guys.
Oh, brilliant.
The guy that I turned down, by the way, we are good friends, and although I didn't do a podcast or interview with him, we did hook up and have some sort of mentoring chats and stuff like that, and we've become good friends. And actually, out of all the people that he interviewed, I think it's only me and Owie that probably keep in regular contact, and that's a mark of Paul again. What a great guy Paul is. But the other thing was that the sim racing, I hadn't done any sims for a while, and was asked to do that. I thought, do you know what, it'll be fun. Let's do it. So yeah, if anyone does want, I don't want to nick any work off Gavin or Chris, but if you're stuck for a name, give us a shout, and we'll see what we can do.
Oh, I love it.
And if you don't want it taken too seriously, and it's okay if the commentator's drunk by the end, then give me a shout.
Just a load of slurring towards the end.
Exactly.
It's all right, man.
and we cut back to Chris. What's going on?
Just be worried the day that I actually get a driver that starts driving me to the real circuits. Then we're because it means I've taken it to another level.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Assisted up the stairs.
Yeah. The lift's out of order.
You're stuck then.
Well, honestly, guys, I super appreciate your time this evening. This show's been, it's been incredible. We're an hour and 40 minutes into it. I could just, as I say, guys, thank you so much. I wish you all the best for your 2024 seasons. And fingers crossed. I know, to be fair, I'm pretty sure I'm going to bump into most of you this year with our plans of what we've got going on with the Vectra and Steph in the Mod Fords as well. So fingers crossed. We will, hopefully, it's only going to be, about a month now, and we'll be racing. So
Less than
Yeah.
that.
Well, less than
Bring
that
it
because
on.
you're actually the first race weekend, aren't you, Steph?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's March 16th. The
Was it?
season is it March 16th?
Wow, blimey.
3.5 weeks.
Oh
Bring the
God!
wet.
Bring
Yeah,
the wets.
so fingers crossed. In 3.5 weeks, the
I'll
race
bring 'em.
season all gets underway. So honestly, guys, thank you so much for tonight. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
And we will
Thanks very
see
much.
you in 3 weeks' time for our next episode, which we will be announcing our ambassadors. Well, we would have announced them, but we'll be getting them on the show to introduce them to all of our fans. So, guys, we will see you in 3 weeks. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Goodbye.